Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. In today's video, we're talking about potatoes. In fact, we're talking about the Jersey potatoes, and unfortunately, I'm going to be a bearer of a bad news yet again. So only the other day, I was looking at my garden and thinking, I'm going to change things. And I already said this, as a prepper, I'm fully determined to make my garden work for me as best as I can. Last year, I've grown myself quite a bit of potatoes, but I had to allocate quite a little bit of space to them in my raised bed. But at the same time, I've also grown some in a pot. And this year I was thinking, do you know what? I think I'm going to make some changes. And I'm going to try to maybe substitute the potatoes with some different crops. Well, this is until I actually have seen the latest news. So apparently they found some pesticides, forever chemicals pesticides in Jersey, right? And this comes to a bit of a surprise. We're all aware that forever chemicals are everywhere. Okay, there's no hiding from that, and I really haven't kind of thought too much about it until I've seen this, because it affects potatoes. You know, like Jersey rolls, that kind of thing. Whatever potatoes they grow in Jersey. So apparently, the farmers in Jersey, right, are using 4 out of 25 forever chemical pesticides that they are trying to ban in the UK. Although they use them in apparently a very small quantities and only use that on a couple of sprays a year, and they say it's absolutely minimal. But, right, funnily enough, that you've got the Farmers Union from Jersey said he wasn't actually aware that they're using this practice and thinking they're going to try to phase this out. Farmers say they're not able to produce the crops because it's kind of antifungal and they have to do this, otherwise potentially the whole crop at jeopardy. Well, that kind of goes with everything you grow, right? But so those chemicals, forever chemicals, they're a group of chemicals. They're resistant to heat, water, oil, and grease. And this is why they kind of stick around in the soil and everywhere else. They do use them in skin creams and cosmetics, car and floor polishes, rinse aids for dishwashers, textile fabrics, that kind of thing. So that sounds pretty crappy to me. So the chemicals remain in the body, and apparently some studies found that they're linked to certain types of illnesses, right? So apparently, in the 2022, there was the research on the people's health, and they found that some people living in Jersey, 72 people from 31, okay, they lived closer to the airport, bear with me, had increased levels of cholesterol, right, and increased level of those chemicals in their bloodstream, in their bodies. So apparently, in 1991, there was a leakage of the firefighters' foam that contains those chemicals into the water. Okay, so all of the island's water is contaminated with those chemicals. So generally, they're talking about that the water gets tested, it goes through rigorous testing to make sure it does obviously contain some of the chemicals, but it is a very minor amount. But for some reason, they're still talking about potentially introducing some sort of a medication to help people to get rid of those forever chemicals from their bodies, because in fact, those guys are still consuming it to some degree. And the fact they're talking about that the farmers are using those pesticides full of forever chemicals, be it only twice a year. They actually, in some point, talking about introducing some sort of a treatment that people that have higher levels of forever chemicals that live in certain areas can have some of their blood taken out with forever chemicals and replaced with the blood that is not. This is in order to limit the amount of forever chemicals in their body. So it brings me to a general question, right? Or general statement, shall I say. So forever chemicals, they're in their water constantly, be it in a small amount, yet they found this in people's bodies in excessive amounts. So they're now, many years down the line, looking at rectifying the situation. And then now farmers talking about, and Union just found out the farmers using forever pesticides on the crops of the potatoes, be it only twice a year, and they say it's absolutely minimal. So forgive me for, being a bit skeptical, but even if you're using this twice a year, it stays in the ground anyway, and potatoes are tubular things. They will soak in water. This is what potatoes need a lot of. They need a lot of sun, and they need a lot of moisture to be soaked in from the ground, and obviously, whatever comes from the top when they water it and spray it. And I understand to some degree that farmers, they do need to have some sort of a control of the disease, but this is the pesticides they're trying to ban in the UK. And of course, we having the potatoes from Jersey, we import them because a lot of, when you go to the supermarkets, there are Jersey potatoes there. I appreciate there's loads of other potatoes, out there on the shelves, but nonetheless, we're still importing that. And that got me thinking, well, actually, I can't even trust potatoes anymore, because to be fair, if they're using this there, the chances are maybe some farmers using it here. I'm not saying that they do, but there are pesticides used on the crops all the time. So, and that gave me a thought again. Actually, one more thing, I think I will be wanting to grow more potatoes rather than even buying potatoes in the supermarkets, because yes, you know, they do take a lot of space, but they do grow fairly easily. So anyway, my point is, right, it's the serious way of considering growing your own potatoes. So if you want to bear with me, I'm going to get changed and we're going to garden, because I do have some pots of the potatoes left. My potatoes have been planted in April. I've been harvesting some potatoes. The main crop is harvested, but I left a couple of them in a pot, and we're now in February. So for any of you who's potentially thinking of growing the potatoes but unsure about the space and thinking maybe growing them in the pots, we're going to tip them over and I'm going to show you the size of the pots, and we're going to see how many potatoes we have in them and see how well they survived from April. So let's go. So this is the 40-centimeter pot, right? And I said apparently I had 5 potatoes in there. So let's tip it over and have a look. Do bear in mind it is a dead of winter. Okay, some started to perish away because they've been sitting there for a while. The baby potatoes, because again I think because I overcrowded them as an experiment, but nonetheless. Okay, not the rich pickings, I'm afraid. I think that's just that handful of those. Okay, right, let's have a look at the big one now. So that's a bigger pot, and I had 3 pieces, small potatoes gone in there. So let's get this off the top. Looking better. Put that down. Okay. Oh, look at that. Much better. Here we go. Right. Again, some are starting to rot away. But nonetheless, there we go. Much better look. Still perfect, considering it's been months. Literally many months. This one's been munched. And this one. Here we are, look. Okay. Well, that's not too bad. Here we go. So guys, there we are. So that was approximately 2.8 kilos from those 2 pots, which I don't think is that bad, considering they've been planted in April. Some of them have rotted away. We had a pretty rubbish weather, but they're still there and they're still okay. And because I crammed them in, that was an experiment. Technically, you only probably put 2 or 3 potatoes for a big pot to give you bigger potatoes and slightly bigger yield. And my potatoes were in the shady area as well, which is not that great for the potatoes. But nonetheless, so far, I've approximately had 38 kilos of potatoes, okay? And I'm pretty happy with this considering how small my garden is. I worked out that we need 52 kilos of potatoes per year for 2 people if you want to consume potatoes twice a week. So 52 kilos, I'm pretty close, I'm rather happy. So my question is to you, do you think it's worth it growing the potatoes? I certainly think so. So there we are, guys. So now I know I will be growing more potatoes. I'm not interested in having anything else sprayed with the stuff we don't want. So my mission will be trying to hit my 52 kilos. And of course, I will be keeping you really close by. So if you're following the channel, don't forget to subscribe. Of course, please don't forget thumbs up. And I shall see you in the next video. Bye-bye.